This is Jamala Rogers, your host of Voices from the Battlefield. Unfortunately, you will be coming in on the middle of this conversation due to technical difficulties. Thank you for listening.
Turn. He was trying to overturn the whole Southern strategy by Richard Milhous Nixon that had prevented a Democrat from going into the White House up until that time. And so he was currying favor, using racist tropes in order to win, white electorate to elect him. He was the one who had went to Jesse Jackson's place in Chicago for this Operation Push presentation and attacked Sister Soldier, who had just been to Jesse Jackson place, and attacked Sister Soldier. And this was a demonstration of two things. One, that Jesse Jackson, as it was being characterized as Jackson was the one who was, this big Democrat who was running so much, and that they were catering to Jackson. So he made it clear that's not the case. And he also made it clear that he was not beholden in that fashion to black people. So he attacked Sister Soldier, who was a hip hop artist, among other kinds of things, very brilliant young woman. And he does this publicly. And then he gives Jesse Jackson $1 million to go out and register voters. And Jackson takes the money, he registers voters to contribute to getting him elected along with all the other stuff he was doing. We've had to contend with the fact that up until subsequent to the 1960s, when we had such a marvelous movement, and I'm not waxing nostalgia at all. I'm saying that our movement was characterized by such extraordinary figures like Malcolm X and Dr. Martin Luther King and Patrice Lumumba in Congo. I mean, other things that really mobilized and gave African people a sense of dignity and direction. And so we're not fighting to make white people like us. We said the question is not whether white people like us. The question is whether we have the power to keep them from hurting us, whether they like us or not. And so the whole struggle for black power, anti-colonialism, that became the politic. And that was the thing that came under assault with the assassinations of Malcolm, the assassinations of King, the assassination of Lumumba in Congo, the overthrow of Nkrumah in Ghana, all speaking more or less the same language, talking about the same struggles, and the murder of Martin Luther King, which happened within that same time frame. These are not just coincidental. Che Guevara gets kidnapped, gets wounded, and captured in Bolivia, and then assassinated when that happened. So this is the era of real struggle against colonialism and struggle by oppressed people for power over our own lives.
Yeah.
So that you're
And,
not in a perpetual situation
yeah.
of, oh God, please let a good white man get elected.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. The
yeah,
worst of the lesser of the two evils. But your
yes,
comments, Chairman, remind me of the fact that we know that during the 60s, actually the 50s, COINTELPRO was alive and well, and some people will say, oh, that was buried when Hoover left, but really it's not, because when you look at the kind of repression that's going on now, particularly with the Uhuru 3, then we know that it's alive and well and who's getting targeted. So give us an update on what happened with the Uhuru 3, some of the trumped up charges that were faced, and the whole notion of dragging people through court to defend themselves when you already know it's bogus, but you still have to do it and you know why they're doing it.
yes.
But yes, they didn't get as far as they thought they would. So tell our listening audience about what happened with the charges with the Uhuru 3, and why we're now getting ready to do an appeal process.
They attacked the Uhuru 3 in the same fashion they attacked Iran. It was a sneak attack. It was a pre-dawn attack. As you know, I'm one of the Uhuru Three. I was the main target in the Uhuru Three, and so here I am on Redbud, one of the most economically depressed areas of North St. Louis, and I'm up. My wife is up. And we are preparing for the day. We're going to open that day. We're going to start a doula program, because right here in St. Louis, something like enough babies, black babies, die every year to fill 12 kindergarten classes. So we're having a doula program. We're initiating a doula program where we actually train African women that day. And I'm up because I'm going to the gym and when it happens. And then I hear what I thought initially was a tornado warning, this loudspeaker, and then it becomes clear because I'm not expecting this at all. That it's not a tornado. It is well, it's another kind of tornado. And they said, everybody in this resident come out with their hands open, your hands empty, and your hands up. This is the FBI. And so I go downstairs after asking my wife to get on the phone to call people and let them know that we're under assault, but she couldn't because they had jammed our phones. So we had no ability to access anybody else. I get downstairs and I walk downstairs. It's black except for this lights that's coming from this armored vehicle that's parked in front of my house. That's nearly blinding. And so I go downstairs, my hands up, follow this light, follow these directions. This is the kind of stuff. And I'm thinking Fred Hampton, who they murdered at 4 o'clock in the morning in Chicago. And so,
Right.
I expect they would kill me because in addition to this voice and the armored vehicle in my chest now, these red dots are hitting me in the chest. These devices that they use, targeting,
Right. Right.
instruments.
The
My wife
scopes. Yeah.
yeah. So my wife opens the door and she's almost hit in the face with a drone that's going up the stairs in the house. Flashbang grenades are going off throughout the neighborhood and what have you, and even in the back stairwell of the house. I was to learn. They zip tied me, handcuffed my wife when she gets downstairs, and they have put tape on my neighbor's doorbell video next door so that nobody could see what it is they're doing. Across town and on South St. Louis in Gravois, where we have office that headquarters the solidarity movement, because we penetrated the white community as well. We're organizing behind enemy lines, so to speak. And they targeted that same way. They came with electric battering rams, knock down the doors, knock down windows, and what have you. Go upstairs to where an apartment Jesse Neville and his wife are living, held them at gunpoint. Go to the house of Penny Hess, who is the chairwoman of the African People's Solidarity Committee, hold her and her roommate at gunpoint. And they occupied our homes. They stole computers, cell phones, all kinds of devices and what have you that would allow us to communicate with the world. And they took all of this. And then they told us while we're standing there, and I'm struggling with them, what is this about? Well, later this morning, there's going to be an indictment of a Russian national. He's in Russia, but should he ever come here, he'll be indicted. And your name is in the indictment. And so we have a search warrant for your property. Well, let me see the search warrant. And they couldn't produce it on the spot. We did see it later. They left it in the house after they left the house. They said if I wanted to, I had some choices I could make. I could sit on the curb. I could sit there on the curb at gunpoint, handcuffed, zip tied. I could go into the house and sit someplace while they were in the house doing what they were doing. And those are two choices. And then I said, well, I don't want to do either of those things. I want to bounce. I want to leave. Can I leave? They said, yeah, you can leave. So they go through this thing. They cut the zip ties from me. 9 months later, they indict us. They go 9 months without anything. And there was an assumption that, just like in Iran, there was an assumption that because they came with all of this armament, with all of this heavyweight, that we would
Shock and
simply,
awe.
yeah, yeah. So the assumption was we would go for some kind of plea bargain, some plea deal, where we would take a lesser charge. We would take a lesser sentence than what they were offering us. And they indicted us on two charges. I ended up having to go to Florida for the indictment, where I was put in leg irons and handcuffs, and I was mugshot, fingerprinted, and they indicted us, one, for being Russian agents, that we were actually in the employ of the Russians. Two, without notifying the Attorney General. And two, we were conspiring to be agents of the Russians without notifying the Attorney General. The first sentence, the first working for them, was punishable by 10 years and $250,000 fine. The second was punishable by 5 years and $250,000 fine. So they were going to tie us up. They were going to take, and they were besmirching our reputation. They were making people fearful. That was the assumption of associating with us, although we had the greatest leap in membership requests, in this period of time than we had ever had. Uh, uh, because many people didn't even know we were here until this attack happened.
Right,
And
right.
then when they found out we were here, they didn't know that somebody who was carrying out that legacy of Malcolm and the Panthers, et cetera, was still on the ground. So they tried us, and they said the trial was going to last for a month. It lasted, I think, maybe 8 days, counting weekends, and they had offered a $10 million bounty for anybody who could provide them information on us and the Russians to prove their charge. I had gone to Moscow, by the way, in 2015. I went to Moscow twice. I went there at the invitation to participate in international conferences. And my objective of going there was to win people and support for the struggle of black people in this country. And also because there was international media that was going to be accessible to us. As you know, we're in this war of ideas, and that the media, generally speaking, what they characterize as legacy media, won't carry anything about our struggles. They won't help us to get that out. So that's what we were doing. And so they said at the time I went to Russia, I became an agent of the Russians. They said that the struggles that we were involved in, everything they charged us with, revolved around speech, free speech. That it was the Russians who came up with the reparations demand that we were making, which reparations is something that African people have been struggling for forever. I mean, in 1915, the sister Hallie, what's her name? You know who I'm talking about.
I know, yeah, I know you're talking
Yeah,
about, yeah.
she was in prison. She had hundreds of thousands of black people who had become a part of this organization working for reparations for black people. Hallie, anyway, and
It'll come to us.
yeah, and then of course in 1954, 52, I think it was that Africans went to the United Nations. Africans charged genocide, claiming that the United States had violated the Convention on Genocide. They said that we had collected 130,000 signatures on petitions to go to the United Nations, saying that the United States is guilty of genocide against African people. 130,000 people had signed those things. They said the Russians came up with that. They took the petitions, they stole the petitions offline. And anyway, these are the kinds of charges that they initiated against us. And so we went to trial. And the only African juror, they removed her. So we didn't have any Africans on the jury. They didn't have any witnesses, any people. They had 12 FBI agents and
Hmm.
two experts who on Russia, and none of whom could say we did anything. And then they said it. Here you have the chief lead investigator from the FBI almost crying on the witness stand because she had to admit that we were not doing anything since 2014 that we weren't doing in last part of the 1900s, etc. And so anyway, we didn't present any witnesses. But we did win. We had extraordinary lawyers, I should say, extraordinary
Yeah, yeah.
lawyers, and we were permitted to be able to show our work, our activity. We presented to in the trial, evidence of our history, who we were, what we stood for. We never ran from the fact that we were revolutionaries. In fact, when we first opened up, one of the lawyers, an African man, went and raised his fist and said Uhuru. He said Uhuru said it 3 times. So you're going to hear that over and over during this trial. He said Uhuru in Swahili means freedom, freedom of assembly, freedom of speech, freedom, et cetera, et cetera. And they're going to be talking to you about Russia, 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 Russia. Russia's got nothing to do with this. This is a people who've been struggling for their freedom. And the person, one lawyer who was uh, the one, we had a team of lawyers working together, and then one lawyer, Addie Griffin, she stood forward and she said, Omali Yeshitala is a revolutionary. He cannot be bought, and made this statement to this jury. And we had an extraordinary other force who wrote the brief to dismiss all the charges, and has been doing that kind of work since that time. And so a jury was out for that day and came back the next day, and they found us not guilty as being Russian agents. We were not working for the Russians, but they found us guilty of uh, of conspiring to not notify the Attorney General that we were working for, as we were acting as Russian agents. So it was an extraordinary split verdict, and we expect to win that. And so we'll be going in July, Atlanta. I think it's the week of July 20th. We don't know the exact date. We're going to Atlanta for oral arguments, which in and of itself is a good sign, because if they offer the ability to have oral arguments that is based on the presumption that there's legitimacy to the arguments that we're making. So we'll see what happens with that. And we hope people join
So
us in Atlanta.
yeah, I'm thinking about the way that the DOJ is functioning right now in terms of retribution, and even when they have baseless aims, it's really about smearing the reputation of people and having them spend an incredible amount of money to defend themselves. So this is a tried and true um, method that these folks have used for a long
Yes.
time. I mean, even during the McCarthy era, it was the same thing. You had to defend yourself, and some people, they didn't make it. They lost their reputation. They lost their businesses. Some of them committed suicide. So this is a tactic that they know has worked. And so for other folks who peeped it and saw, okay, this is what it's about, you almost have no you're forced to go through it because you here in this country under their rules. But the fact that you all said, we're fighting this to the end, and have the resources and support to do that, I think is phenomenal. So they had to back off all of that jail time we were expecting that you all might get. And I think that was one of the fears of the movement, is that they were going to extract you all from our community, put you in jail and where you would languish, for years to come. But I don't think they expected the kind of support, because there was the courtroom was full, and we've been like working to make sure that it was full. And I think that really had a lot to do with it, as well as the extraordinary expertise of the attorneys that represented you all. So now there's going to be the hearing. What are the expectations there? And then I'm going to move us to some of the projects that you all had here, that when that jury heard, said, oh, these are good things for a community. Why would we be going after these people? So what should we expect at the circuit court, the 11th Circuit Court, when you all make your oral arguments? What are we expecting out of that?
Well, it's a really important case, because if even though we beat the foundational charge, found not guilty on that, if they can make this thing hold, it means that anybody can be even in this discussion we're having now, can be characterized as some kind of conspiracy. And because the conspiracy charge didn't require us to do anything, it's a thought crime.
Right.
Effectively, it's what a thought crime. We didn't do anything when it said, "Well, you thought about it, you wanted
Right, right,
it,
right.
etc." So that's why it's really important as a precedent to beat this case because it's something that hangs over anybody. It's a chilling thing that somebody is afraid now to have meetings to associate with each other, associate with other people because they can do this to you. So that's one of the things that makes it extremely important, and that's part of what our argument will revolve around. And the other thing is that we're in the process of initiating a real mass movement to get rid of that law associated with Foreign Agents Registration Act, which in and of itself is an assault on free speech. Because even if people work with or for foreign agents, there's nothing illegal about that. It falls within the constitutional protection, even though we didn't work for a foreign agent or anything. But remember, 1969, that's when the Panther 21 were arrested, a conspiracy. They had a
Right,
hundred and some
right.
odd charges against them, including planning to blow up the flowers in the botanical garden. And of course, it was Tupac's mama, who was then a young woman, very pregnant, who ended up being the lawyer that defended them. And they beat all of those cases. They
All
were
the charges.
all
Yep.
the charges. They beat them. And so we have to fight. Because if you don't fight, you will surely lose.
Right. Yeah.
And the feds have a 97, 98% conviction rate. But that rate is based on the fact that nobody fights. People take deals. They're afraid to fight,
Right.
you know.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's
Yeah.
and so we're
Yeah.
going to Atlanta because we recognized right away that it was not a political, it was not a legal issue. It was a political case that they were using the law to pursue. It was politics of crushing the African liberation movement, crushing a movement that was consciously, vocally talking about negating colonialism in our communities, and that's what we were involved in and have always been involved in doing. So we expect to take people there, just like we did to the courts, and have a lot of people there, and that's going to because it's a political case, and we'll
Yeah.
bring it back, bring the political
Yeah.
issue back to
Yeah.
them.
And I know you all are doing quite a bit, the Uhuru movement, and you got different aspects, entrepreneurial as well as community development. But I want to make sure we have time to talk about the upcoming conference. But I do want you to talk about the radio program because that to me was very exciting. That first of all, the FCC of all people granted the license, and then I was like amused by the name. So I said, "Oh, KS. Okay, wait for it, y'all. Keep it St. Louis Black." So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's exciting. So talk about like when that's going to go on air. It's 94.1, I think it is KSLB. Um, yeah, keep it St. Louis Black, y'all.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. We this is a really important thing. We have a radio station in Florida, St. Petersburg,
Right,
Florida. When they
right,
attacked us in Florida, one of the first things they did was take the radio station briefly off the air.
right,
But we have to be able to engage in this struggle, this war of ideas. We have to be able have possession of our own narrative and be able to express our own narrative. And that's why, and we're having a meeting on Saturday, and I think this coming Saturday, and hopefully you'll be able to attend that meeting because we have to have, like a community board that helps us to advise us and in terms of how that radio station should look and what we should be doing and et cetera. So it's going to be our radio station, and then we've got the building for it. We've bought the building for it. We in the process now of working to had an architect there today to look at how to lay out exactly how we're going to make the radio station look and work inside, facilitate that. And it's going to be a remarkable event. And it's going to be right here on the same West Florissant thoroughfare that we've got so many of these economic projects it's changing this section of North St. Louis, and it's
Hmm.
making it a place where Black people, African, want to come back to, want to work in, want to develop, and et cetera. So we're looking forward to this. A very
Yeah, yeah,
exciting
yeah.
project.
And we know we need to keep St. Louis black. That's for sure.
And definitely
Yeah, because the way that it's looking, they trying to make St. Louis white again in
they are.
concert with what's going on the federal level. But we got an exciting thing coming up in a couple of weeks, and that is the international conference that the African People's Socialist Party is putting on. So talk about what is the goals of that and what will be the takeaways, and is it going to truly be international? I know we say international, but will there be international folks coming in to St. Louis that we can welcome? What's that going to look like?
Well, it's going to be an international conference. You may know that our party in the Uhuru movement exists in Africa, especially in various places in South Africa, Namibia, and Southern Africa, Nigeria. Uh, this used to be called Swaziland, Kiswatini. Um, Various other places on the continent itself. We are also in Europe, have a long presence in England, and we have an off and on presence in Germany, Belgium, Sweden, and of course from throughout the United States. So there will be some of those people will be coming here, but we've also opened up a Latin America front. So there'll be people from Venezuela, who are there, who we work with even now after the attack on Venezuela, kidnapping of the president and the first combatant, his wife, people who are closely tied to the struggle in Cuba. So some of them will be here in person, and some of them will be participating via streaming and stuff like that. But they will all be participating. It's going to be international. Yeah, and
Okay.
I look forward to it. I'm extremely excited about it because our last plenary, which is what this is a party plenary. We were not able to do it because of the attack that was made on us. So we're late now with this one.
Hmm.
And so a
Right.
lot of work has to be accomplished here, and we're excited about where we're going. Yeah, give us an opportunity.
So, yeah, so talk about how people can get involved. I know it's going to be on the south side at the center on Wyoming, but the dates we didn't get the dates, so let's get that
That's
out there.
the 3 days, 17th, 18th, and the 19th. And it's going to be extremely exciting and important. We'll talk about all the stuff we talked about now and more. And we'll deepen it, help to clarify, we believe, much of what's happening with this world now, with this government now, in the proximity that this country continues to take us to nuclear conflagration and all other kinds of contradictions, starving us in our communities. As you mentioned, we don't have, as he said, money for childcare and money for all these other things because we're making war now. You just have money to kidnap, just as brutally and obviously illegal acts that's being, but this is not the beginning of illegality when it comes to what
Right,
this
right,
country.
right. And then to me, in many ways, this is, what we often talk about is how do we connect the dots? How do we connect the people who are in struggle, whether it be here locally, whether it be international? Because oftentimes we think we're the only ones in struggle, and
Yeah,
we think that there's not a common enemy, but it
yeah,
really is. And
yeah,
so the coming together of this plenary with people from around the world is very significant, and the fact that they're coming to St. Louis makes this even more important for us to find ways to support it. And there's a registration, and people have to register, but it's not out of our range of pocketbooks if we think this is important. So we want people to go to the website. I'm gonna put that
that's
up on my website so that you have a direct link
good.
to the registration. But yeah, this is a time when we need to have all forces come together who believe in democracy, who are fighting against colonialism and neo-colonialism,
Yes, yes,
and
and
and and
neocolonialism.
yeah, 'cause-
Yes, yeah. You mentioned
yeah.
so a couple of them from right here in
Right.
St. Louis.
Yeah, yeah. So we, this is the time for us to develop and strengthen our muscle as it relates to the fight back, both locally and nationally and internationally. And I think it's always to our advantage when we can bring people from other places to talk about their struggles and how we are connected, and we really are. Yeah. So one of the things that I think it's important to know about an organization like the African People's Socialist Party is that one of the things that happens is that you draw repression, you draw attention, and if you're doing the stuff right, you're going to be in the crosshairs of the FBI, the CIA, and those people like that. And so I think for us who believe in freedom, we have to find ways to support one another. You don't have to agree with what I believe, but you do have to find ways to support my right, the African People's Socialist Party's right to have free speech, to talk about what we believe, to assemble. All of that is protected under the Constitution, and so it can't be, oh, I don't like that brother, or Jamala Rogers, she's too radical. It has to be, wait a minute, I
You
have to
are pretty
stand on
radical, Sister
principle.
Jamala.
You have to stand on principle because I'm going to do that for you,
Yes,
and I think it has to be done. It
yes.
really does. So in
I
the
think
few
that,
minutes
yeah.
go ahead. I was going to say
No,
in the
I
few
think
minutes
that's
we
true.
have
And,
left.
and people can find more by going to APSP plenary.org. That's plenary.org. And you're absolutely correct. To all of these issues that are out there that we're being that's being forced into our living rooms, into our kitchens. I mean, they are forced into our communities, whether we wanted to ignore them or not. It's becoming increasingly difficult to ignore the way the world is moving and how it's moving, and also increasingly difficult to understand, to misunderstand the fact that since the beginning of this thing, and I'm not talking about this recent history, African people have been the central force that the whole social system was built on controlling Africa and its resources, and we are one of the most important resources Africa that's been stolen from Africa. So we're in St. Louis and now, where we should be and would have been building in Africa. We've been building for them instead of for us, and that's the contest we're involved in. So hopefully, people will come out and work with us, Uhuru. And like you said, if
Yeah,
you don't have to
absolutely.
agree.
And no, because we know that we got lots of dissension in St. Louis, and some of it is petty, and some of it is manufactured, some of it is orchestrated. Let's not forget what happened on the COINTELPRO. But yeah, so there's some things going on this weekend leading up to the international plenary. One is Sister Sita is going to be screening her documentary, and this is the sister that Christian Ferguson was her son that disappeared out of his father's car. She's been a longtime advocate for missing and murdered children, and so somebody has the wisdom to actually do a documentary. That's going to be 11 o'clock on Saturday down at the main library, and there's also going to be the Art City Defenders Trivia Night at 5 o'clock over there at their new facility, the new Northside Movement Center. And there's things going on next Wednesday, the 15th, is going to be part two of, Hands Off St. Louis. And last week when we met, we had standing room only for people who are interested in the illegal and unconstitutional, unethical takeover of the St. Louis Police Department from the people. So there are folks who are been a part of that, and as you know, I'm part of the lawsuit against the state, and so we are not sitting down. As you see, we vibe off each other. Like the Uhuru movement stood
Right
up.
on,
We got to stand up. People
right
got to
on.
support all of the. Anywhere you see people standing up against oppression, we need to be saying, yes, count me in. And so that's happening this week on the 15th, and we'll put that up on my website at jamalarogers.com. And if you want to hear more of this, you need to go to the website, and the video portion will be on my YouTube page. So sometimes you got to go back and listen in order to catch all of the
Yeah.
goodies that people are saying, because you might be at work trying to listen and do some work. But all the past programs will be at JamalaRogers.com, as well as the YouTube station. So we got a lot to do, y'all. It's so much going on, and all of this affects us. You heard the chairman talk about every time somebody thinks there's something going on in 5,000 miles away and say, "Oh, that doesn't affect me." Then you go to the pump
Yeah.
and you have to make a decision where you getting your gas, how much you getting, and whether or not you're going to go to place X or place Y. Yes, we're all connected now. These folks made
Yes.
this a global economy,
Yes.
and we are part of it, whether we know it or not, whether we like it or not. And so we have to pay attention, y'all. We really do. I want to thank our guest today, Chairman Omali Yeshitala, and you could see him in person next weekend at the International Plenary. At the I'm trying to remember the place on Wyoming. What's the name of it? It's
The Center for Divine Love.
Center for Divine Love. What an appropriate place to have it. And so,
Yes.
yeah, I've been there several times. And so,
Yeah.
yes, so we will see you on the battlefield. This is Jamala Rogers, your host. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Uhuru.
Uhuru, freedom.